Hey everyone, this is another live look at the astrology. This is March 8th through 14th, 2021. So thank you all for joining me again and again. I really appreciate your support and your comments and your feedback. We're in Pisces season. So because we're in Pisces season, we are at the end of the astrological year. So this means that we are living life through this very particular archetype, this archetype of endings, surrender, spirituality, spiritual work, service, connection, and all that. But before we get to that, let me just first introduce myself. My name is Katie Sweetman. I'm an astrologer and psychic medium here in Brooklyn, New York. So thank you all again for joining me. If you are in the comments, say hello. Tell me where you're watching from. As I say again and again, I can't travel, so I have to travel vicariously through you. I know some of you are in Canada, you are in the UK, you are in Australia. I know it's morning time in Australia as I record this, and I'm here in New York. So let's look at the astrology this week. So as I was saying a few moments ago, we are in Pisces season. We are in the last sign of the zodiac season, the sign that bridges between this world and the next world. When you get to Pisces, you are in the least physical of all the signs. We sort of left the solid ground of Capricorn season. We've sort of gone into the air, the big ideas, the systems and networks of Aquarius season, humanity, community, and now we are at Pisces. Pisces is a sign that's about spirituality. It's the last water sign. So it's sort of the summation of all the feelings and emotions that we've been through throughout the entire astrological year. I tell people Cancer as the first astrological or the first water sign. Cancer is about your feelings or my feelings. We get to Scorpio, it's the feelings that we share together, the sort of the intensity, the intimacy and the vulnerability of Scorpio. But when we get to Pisces, it's collective emotions. So it's really in Pisces that we are trying to open our hearts. We are trying to find compassion. We are trying to find empathy. We're trying to understand life from the perspective of other people. And sometimes when we have really heavy Pisces energy, we sort of are faced with situations that force us to find compassion. Maybe it's a loss. We never considered what something was like until we had to feel it ourselves. Maybe it's watching something unfold in somebody else's life and suddenly realizing or wondering or having the empathy of what that person might be going through. So this is a very emotional time. At least this is what the astrology tells us. Certainly this week is an emotional time because we have a lot of Neptune in the astrology. So let's rewind a little bit. Let's actually go back to 2011, 2012. I know I'm going way back in time, 10 years, 9 years. 2011, 2012 was the years that Neptune went into Pisces. Neptune previously had been in Aquarius for 14 years. Yes, Neptune spends 14 years in each of the zodiac signs. It has a cycle of, I think it's like 168 years. Sorry, I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but Neptune is a planet. It's part of this modern class of planets where it's about an evolution of some variety. Now, with Uranus, the first planet discovered after Saturn, it's the evolution of consciousness, awakenings, breaking down old structures and orders, releasing ourselves from the things that imprison us. It's these big ideas. It's genius. It's the Uranian archetype. It's that spark of light in the dark. It's also the chaos that can sometimes come with it. But we get to Neptune. Neptune is a planet that dissolves the boundaries between this world and the next world. So when we have a lot of Neptune in the astrology, maybe we don't quite know which way is up. We don't know who to believe. We don't know if something is real or not because we don't have our physical bearings anymore. So this week, we have a couple of things going on. First, before we get to Neptune, we have Venus making what's called a square to the lunar nodes on March tomorrow, March 9th. So when Venus squares the lunar nodes, our relationships are at a crossroads. We have to sort of figure out which way to go. And when something's in the lunar node, something feels fated. It feels important. It feels like it's part of a bigger story, maybe an old story. In fact, this degree that Venus is at right now, when it squares the lunar nodes, is the same degree as the June 5th, 2020 lunar eclipse in Sagittarius. So maybe there's something that from June of 2020 that is coming up right now. When Venus is square the lunar nodes, we have to really figure out what we value. What is important to us? Is it what we thought was important, what we believe is important, or is it something that we feel? So we might find that Neptune, I got Neptune on the brain. We might find that Venus is very much asking us to reconsider our relationships this week. And we may find that, especially for a romantic relationship or some sort of partnership or connection, things are shifting and moving. The analogy that I make over and over again with eclipses is in order to kind of conceptually understand them, because they're very important in astrology. It's as if when we get to an eclipse, which we had eclipse last November, December, we'll have eclipses next May, June, not that far away. It's as if the curtain comes down on one act in our life, curtain comes up on the next act. If you've ever been to a theatrical performance, the difference between these two acts might be quite dramatic. Maybe somebody has left the stage. Maybe it's a whole new set. So when you have these eclipses, the sort of the set pieces of our life, the people, the stories, they're rearranging and shifting, and maybe things are getting a little dramatic. But you're thinking, well, it's not November, December. It's certainly not May, June. So what gives? Well, this week we have Venus square the lunar nodes. Maybe you don't know this, but lunar nodes are what makes eclipses happen. They have a certain place in the sky. They are moving. By the way, they're moving backwards against the astrology. They have been in Gemini, Sagittarius since last May. So that means that the lunar eclipses and the solar eclipses have been Gemini and Sagittarius. But here we are, Pisces season. Pisces forms a cross with Gemini and Sagittarius. So here we are. We're at the midpoint, the halfway mark between the eclipses. And so Venus on the lunar nodes this week, it's sort of activating that eclipse energy. So to that point, as I was saying earlier, it's as if your relationships, curtains coming down, curtains coming up on some app, but Venus is in Pisces. Venus is in a sign that demands unconditional love, forgiveness, understanding, recognition, compassion. But Pisces is also a sign of illusions. So we have to ask ourselves, are we seeing things as they really are? Are we caught up in a fantasy? Or is it reality and we need to open ourselves up to something deeper? Which brings me to Neptune. And I was saying a few moments ago that Neptune has been in Pisces since 2011, 2012. And Neptune is in, well, this is sort of a technical point. In modern astrology, Neptune is what's called the ruler of Pisces. Now, I use what are called traditional rulers. So I use Jupiter. Jupiter is the traditional ruler of Pisces. So Neptune is in its home sign according to modern rules, but nevertheless, I think Neptune is in a sign that it has an affinity with. Just getting off the technicalities, but when Neptune, or rather Jupiter is the ruler of Pisces. Jupiter is in Aquarius right now. It means the energies of Pisces is pointing over to Aquarius because Jupiter, the ruler of Pisces, is over in Aquarius. Side note, but Neptune is also in Pisces. So there is an affinity with Neptune and Pisces. It just doesn't what's called move the energy in the astrology. So what I'm trying to say is that Neptune is this planet that opens us up in a way that we never, let's say on a collective level, have experienced. Now it's a modern planet. It was discovered, I believe, in 1846, if I'm remembering my math right, my dates right. So at that time, we had the advent of photography. We had this ability to capture images out of ethers, out of the air. But it was a time when there was this flourishing of spirituality. There were these new spiritual teachings that were coming in. There's actually new religions coming in around that time. But it's a planet that's very mystical. And like I said, you can get the highest of the highs with Neptune, or you get the lowest of the lows with Neptune. It's a planet that can rise us up to the level of saints or saint-like energy, or pull us down into our abyss, for example. So this week, the veil is very thin. It's almost like the Piscean energy that we're in right now, because it's Pisces season, is even thinner, like ours, it's even more concentrated. So we're really feeling that very subtle divide between this world and the next world this week. Maybe our dreams are very vivid. Maybe we are more tired than we normally are because we're used to having our feet on solid ground. But right now we're drifting. We're drifting through the last sort of few legs of the zodiac year right now. If you need to rest, because sometimes Neptune can leak our energy. Sometimes it says that we are too sensitive to be around things that normally we can be around. It could be food, it could be people, it could be situations. Maybe we need to make sure we are conserving our energy. Maybe we're feeling overwhelmed. But Neptune is trying to open us up. And when we start to connect to something higher, as opposed to sort of getting dragged down by Neptune, we can see things from a different perspective. Maybe the thing that we were holding on to so tightly, a grudge or a pain or a memory, we don't need to hold on to it so hard anymore. Neptune sort of puts it, makes things very small. Neptune helps us to connect to the divine in some way, or at least sort of put us on that path. So you may be feeling a lot of emotions this week. Some of it might be very high, some of it might be very low. Word of caution, when Neptune is very strong in the astrology, you want to sort of be careful around substance, because Neptune can sort of negatively amplify, because that veil is very thin right now. So we're in this time over the last 10 years almost where we are sort of questioning what's real. We are sort of, this is why astrology and crystals are really big right now, because we're sort of searching for answers, because they're not in the physical world right now. We're trying, Pisces is a sign where it says the answers are within. So maybe this is why we are in a kind of collective, deep existential crisis, and we're sort of searching for the things that are going to bring truth and meaning to our lives. But Pisces teaches us that the truth and meaning comes from within. It does not come from the external world. The external world can be a support, but ultimately we have to find that connection within. So these are some of the big energies this week. And then we get to, speaking of Neptune, on Wednesday, March 10th, we have what's called the annual conjunction of Sun and Neptune. So the Sun will be in the same place in the sky as Neptune. And what does the Sun do? It sort of gives life to things. It gives life to this Neptunian energy. Now, the Sun is the self, it's the ego, it's the light of the sky, it's the light of the chart, it's the light of astrology. It can be very egocentric, or it can be something that inspires, something that kind of transcends that. So this is a week we have to transcend ourselves. We cannot get stuck in the illusions of ourselves, the illusions of our ego, our projections. So that's sort of this fine line that we have to walk this week as the Sun sort of comes up to Neptune. It's also bringing us to the end of the lunar month. So the lunar month began on February 11th. We had 6 planets in Aquarius. This is an Aquarius lunar month, and the lunar month takes us all the way up to March 13th. So this Saturday, at least here in New York. So here we are, we're at the end of the lunar month, and the veil is thin. Already the veil is thin because we're having Sun conjunct Neptune. So this is a time when we really need to sort of do our reflection, do our meditations, do our spiritual work, nourish our soul, and sort of listen to maybe the messages, the nudges, and the prompts that may be coming through at this time. because we're at the end of the lunar month, this is the time to assess what we learned since the beginning of the last lunar month. So we are coming to the end of a lunar month that taught us about friendship, connection, society, humanity, social justice, social causes, equity, balance, and order. Because Saturn is also in Aquarius. So we are sort of coming out of this Saturnian lunar month. We had to put a lot of things back in order, including our connections and our friendships. We had to make sure that the people in our lives were true supports. And maybe you've been going through your social media, maybe you've been going through your phone and deleting contacts, because Saturn in Aquarius is a little brutal. Saturn in Aquarius says you must be this tall to be in my life or your life or whomever's life. So it's just something to keep in mind if you're sort of feeling like there's this, this parallel narrative that's going on, or a quiet narrative that's going on in your life where people are leaving your life, because that's sort of what Saturn does. Saturn says that the people in your life, like I said before, have to be true support. So maybe you're looking back this week and you're thinking of like the things that you had to navigate with friendship, the sort of the dynamics or the conflicts or the people that left your life. This all prepares us for the Pisces New Moon on Saturday, March 13th. Here in New York, the Pisces New Moon will be at 5:22 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So this Pisces New Moon is interesting for a couple of reasons. One, just on a more of a nuts and bolts level, it's the last lunar month of the astrological year. It's a lunar month that's sort of closing out 2020. I know, 2020, can't get away from that year. But nevertheless, astrology, the astrological year starts March 20th, 21st, depending on what year it is. Sometimes it's March 19th with the sun's arrival in Aries, and it ends right at the last day of Pisces season. Aries is the alpha, Pisces is the omega. These two ends that sort of start and end one another. So this new moon is rounding out the astrological year. It is sort of extending this Pisces energy even as we go into Aries season on, I think it's March 20th this year. So as we round out the lunar month, we are sort of taking a spiritual catalog. We are going within, we are seeing what we're still holding on to, we are nourishing ourselves on a deeper spiritual level. We are letting go, because with Pisces, we have to make space for the next year. We have to make space for new life. So this is a time on some level to purge. I say this as Scorpio. Scorpios are always purging. So this Pisces new moon, it's in particular interesting because it's making a conjunction to both Venus and Neptune. There's that plan again, Neptune. So this is saying over the next 4 weeks, which is the length of a lunar month, we are sort of seeing things through the lens of Neptune. And Venus as well. Now, Neptune can blur, it can distort, or it can make us feel something that we have never felt before. Venus and Neptune together, it's not Venus is love, Venus is relationships, but Neptune is redemption. It's spirituality. It's unconditional love. It's relationships that heal. But I will say, just because Neptune can speak to codependency in relationships, we need to make sure that we're not kind of getting involved in codependent relationships right now. If we are helping people or healing people, we still have to remember that we are physical beings in physical bodies. We need to have good boundaries and good discernment. Nevertheless, this is very beautiful energy in its highest expression, and it is my hope for each and every one of you that you experience something beautiful with this energy. It just may break your heart open, because maybe your heart needs to grow even bigger. Can't keep our heart so small anymore. It's sort of what the astrology this month is teaching us. With the energy of this new moon pointing back to Aquarius, why? Because Jupiter in Aquarius, Saturn's in Aquarius. Saturn is square Uranus right now in the sky. This lunar month might continue the story of we're really being pushed to sort of leave the things that are keeping us small. These sort of things that we're holding on to that we're afraid to let go, and this evolutionary energy of Uranus that's trying to get us to wake up, to shake up, and to make something different happen in 2021. So let's talk about where this new moon is going to manifest for you. So let's, of course, start with Aries, the first sign, the alpha to Pisces Omega. Aries, as I was saying a few moments ago, this new moon is in your last sign. So in a way, it's everything that I've been talking about. It is the end of not just the astrological year, it is the end of your personal year. This is a time where you're not meant to push forward. You're meant to get quiet, you're meant to reflect, you're meant to rest and relax, because this is the season that prepares you for your birthday season, your new beginnings. You're the beginning of your astrological calendar. So what do you want to let go? What sort of insights or deep truths did you find when you look back over the last 12 months before your last birthday? Obviously, the last 11, 12 months were an unprecedented time. So maybe when you look back, you realize maybe your values have shifted. Maybe even your spiritual values have shifted. Maybe you have let go of things that you never thought you would let go of. Venus, by the way, is your relationship planet. It's also your money planet too. So there's this thing about, what are your spiritual values? How do your relationships line up to something greater? When Pisces is part of the mix, when Neptune is part of the mix, it's not what we want, perhaps. It's actually what the divine wants, something greater wants. So maybe you're seeing something happen with relationships right now. Maybe you're surrendering to something that maybe you need to surrender to, or maybe you're letting go of something that you need to let go of. But true to that sort of redemptive quality of Neptune, maybe you are healing and redeeming something that needs to be healed and redeem. So this is, like I said, the time that prepares you for your next astrological month. Maybe this is also talking about friendships and community as well, because Jupiter is in Aquarius. Taurus. So this new moon, this new moon is in your sign of friends, community. You are sort of in that, coming to the end of your personal calendar, and you've sort of stepped out of this time in your calendar when everything was in Aquarius, where it was about career. Well, now that you've sort of done, as much as you can right now, you've done career, how do you look ahead? This is a part of your chart that talks about your hopes and dreams of the future, your wishes. When you look towards the future, what do you want to manifest? What do you want to bring in to the next personal calendar year? That said, this is a time of new beginnings and friendships and community. Maybe new friends are coming in. Maybe new connections are coming in, but connections that sort of heal and speak to releasing something from the past. Because even though Pisces is a sign of endings, it might be in a very different part of the chart for some of the other signs. So it's like, how do you reconcile new beginnings and endings in the same place? How do you reconcile endings with community and friendship? Maybe this is a time where you are getting involved with service in your community. It even could be spiritual service in your community. Maybe you're trying to make sure that the people in your life are aligned with your spiritual values, or maybe they are aligned with something higher, because this is, a big focus in your life right now is making sure that the people in your network, whether it's your professional network or your personal network, are in true alignment with your values. Because Taurus, you are in a time of complete reinvention. I know that I've been saying this over and over again in previous videos. And as you change, the people around you now need to change. And that might mean that the friends that you had 2 years ago, or even longer, are not the friends that you have right now. Gemini. So this is happening in your career sign. So now that the sun is in Pisces, it's reached the top of your chart. This is about your place in the world, the title after your name, how people see you, your duties and responsibilities. Now, little did you know, Gemini, with Pisces as your career sign, you actually, believe it or not, need to do something that your heart is in. Gemini, when Pisces is part of the career story, it's like it has to be altruistic. It has to give back. You have to feel like it's feeding you as much as it's feeding the world. So maybe this new moon is sort of giving you this reassessment of your professional life. Maybe you're like, well, maybe the job I'm doing or maybe the direction I'm going is not in alignment with my higher values. Maybe I need to, connect more to Neptune. Neptune talks about higher callings. Neptune talks about higher service. And Neptune talks about the higher plan. And we all have free will. And we all have egos. And sometimes our free will and egos are in a completely different galaxy than what is best for us. So how do we narrow the divide? So do keep in mind, Gemini, that this new moon, and this is in a way a comment for everybody else, this new moon is activating the solar eclipse from December 14th of 2020. So Gemini, you might actually be, a lot of things are going on in your life, and maybe something that threads back to December, or maybe something that presages these eclipses that are coming in May, June. So with that in mind, life might be coming at you a little bit right now. Maybe you're having to navigate some big changes, some big shifts, and maybe even this new moon for you is talking about these wider, bigger shifts. And this would be a natural time for you to make a change in your professional life. Maybe get a new job, maybe make a change, maybe even get a promotion. But with some of the energy of this new moon pointing back towards Jupiter and Aquarius, maybe you need more education, maybe you need to go back to school, maybe get classes, or sort of this bigger theme around value, truth, faith, and meaning, and how you need to make sure that a lot of the things in your life are actually lining up with what your values are. Cancer. So this new moon is happening in the part of your chart that talks about faith, truth, meaning, this sort of, what are your beliefs? So when the sun is in this part of this chart, you're feeling very philosophical. You're trying to make sense of things. And maybe you're reaching towards education or different faiths or different ways of looking at things. Maybe this involves books. Maybe this involves travel. I realize we can't travel right now, but normally this would be a new moon that would align with voyages and sort of going out there in the world. And maybe you're on a quest right now. Cancer. And I will say, Cancer, side note, because you got a lot going on right now, Cancer, with the astrology, and you're having to do a lot of deep inner work right now. And because of that, maybe you are sort of having to put things together in a different way. Maybe you're having to gain wisdom about life and gain wisdom about yourself that you wouldn't otherwise have right now. This part of your chart with a new moon, it falls just after what I like to call the 8th room, the 8th sign of your chart, which is where you have Saturn right now, and you will until 2023. So I always tell people, how do you get to the wisdom of the 9th room? We have to go through the 8th. So if you're feeling a lot of strong emotions right now, Cancer, just know that this is sort of this necessary alchemy, this sort of purging and releasing the past, this sort of going through a lot of emotional cataloging and even working with a therapist or working with somebody to help you navigate it, so you can then start to get the light bulbs that need to go off right now. And because this is sort of picking up on some stuff about family, maybe this is some of the dots that you're putting together is about family in the past and stories and beliefs that you're holding on to that don't make sense anymore. Leo. So I was saying with Cancer, I was talking about this thing called the 8th room. So there's a part in everybody's astrology house that I call the 8th room where we have to go through it. It's a place where we face ourselves. It's a place where we have to go deep within ourselves and to see what is in our shadow self. So Pisces season for you is that time. It's a time for you to go deep within and to find the things that you have not been facing. We all have this. We all have that deep, dark shadow material within, the things that we have to put the light on. So this is a new moon that's opening up a lunar month where it is about your emotional health. It's about the past. It's about the things that you've been holding on to and the things that you need to release. To some earlier points, you've got Neptune there, you've got Venus. How do you forgive the past? And maybe for some Leos listening, there's some things that have happened to you that are unforgivable. It may be possible that with this energy, with this new moon, that you do find forgiveness. And maybe, this is a question, or rather a conversation I often have with clients, especially when something really terrible has happened. It's like there's this not wanting to let go. Because if you let go, it means that what happened in the past, it's like, okay. It's like you somehow are complicit in what happened. I'm just like, you have to let go. Otherwise, this is going to destroy you. Otherwise, you will always hold on to this. It will always be sort of like letters inserted into your name. That's not who you really are. So you're doing this really deep soul work and soul transformation this month. I know, no big deal, Leo. Leo, by the way, you're already in a lot of other astrology that's happening. Maybe this is the month that you feel a lot of the feels, where you have to sort of find that inner faith, that inner truth, that inner strength that's going to propel you through a lot of the changes that you're going to make this year. With Jupiter pointing over towards relationships, maybe this is bringing up questions around intimacy and vulnerability and trust of a partner, trust of a mate, trust of anybody, sexuality, intimacy, and sort of that real nakedness and rawness that happens when we have to go through the 8th room. So be very gentle on yourself right now, Leo. You're sort of doing your deep inner transformation work right now. Virgo. So Pisces is your relationship sign. So this is relationship season for you. There is a time in everybody's everybody's personal calendar where the astrology is pulling you towards other people. It's always the halfway mark between your birthday. So this is a time when new people are coming in. New moons, new beginnings. It could be a new relationship. It could just mean a new time when you have to turn a new page over an existing relationships. So this is where we have to sort of look at the two sides of some of this astrology, because when Neptune is in this part of the chart, it can go two ways, and often it's one way. Neptune can sometimes talk to codependency, or we see the highest potential of somebody, but we're not in the reality of who they are. This is the joke that I make with a friend of mine. It's like if you're looking at a romantic partner or even any relationship, and you in your head, they're like, let's say this person is a 1-bedroom apartment, but you look at them and they are like a 6-bedroom mansion, but you have to be in reality. It's like this person is never going to be the 6-bedroom mansion. They are going to always be the 1-bedroom. I don't know, maybe it's New York real estate. Anyway, so we all have to look at what people truly are right now, Virgo. And if somebody is presenting as a 1-bedroom apartment, and they will always be a 1-bedroom apartment, but you see the potential and you're going to fix them, alert, alert, alert. But the other side of this is there is that very beautiful Venusian, Neptunian, maybe love will conquer all. I don't know, Virgo, maybe it will all work out. Maybe there is this lunar month that's opening for you that is about forgiveness and surrender. Maybe this lunar month is helping you to let go. And I think that earlier point about Neptune having been in Pisces since 2011, 2012, your relationship sign, but this is also opposing you. And I think there's been this 10-year story, Virgo, where you've had to let go. It's not what you want. It hasn't been what you wanted for the last 10 years. I'm very sorry, Virgo. You are learning to open up to other people, to allow other people to come in, and maybe to let go of some of the reins. So maybe this new moon is a reminder, a very loving, compassionate reminder that you are not in control. I know, maybe life can be a little watery, a little messy, a little intuitive. Virgo is a sign that can be very like nuts and bolts. It's not real. If I can't touch it, well, you have Pisces sort of staring you down for the last 10 years. And so you've had to open up to things that maybe you never would have opened up to. And maybe new people have come into your life who have been mystical, magical, who have opened your eyes in ways that you never thought possible, and maybe even opened your heart in ways that you never thought possible. So I needed to sort of give you both sides of the coin because, I didn't want to put rose-colored glasses on with Neptune, even though sometimes it's tempting, because there are two sides to every planet and two sides to every sign. Libra. So Neptune and this Pisces new moon is in your sign of health and wellness. So little side note, Neptune in this part of the chart can sometimes make us really sensitive. And I mean like allergies and physical sensitivities. So if you're looking back and doing the math and you're like, since 2011, 2012, like I've had some weird stomach issues, like I can't eat the things that I used to normally eat. Maybe this is the new moon where you're doing a catalog and inventory of your physical life. Maybe you're like, this situation makes me toxic. This work makes me toxic, or this affects me negatively. Maybe you need to purify and clean your physical life. Maybe there are things that you need to surrender about in your day-to-day life. So this is a time to really nurture and take care of yourself, body, mind, and soul. Pisces and Neptune by extension is a very wellnessy, maybe you're thinking about wellness and how to better take care of yourself as you go into 2021. Like I said, do keep in mind that Pisces can talk a lot, or Neptune can talk a lot about physical sensitivities. So just make sure whatever you're consuming or whatever you are surrounding yourself is as natural and pure as possible, because there's a lot of chemicals. Sometimes Neptune can speak to sort of chemical sensitivity, as a little side note, but maybe you need to do some volunteering, maybe you need to help people, maybe you need to open your heart, maybe you need to make sure that your work is in alignment with your true values, your spiritual values. There is such an altruistic streak with this astrology, so how do you bring altruism and higher callings into the day-to-day details of your daily life? So with the energy of this new moon pointing back towards Jupiter and Aquarius, get creative. You have to make sure that you are being you, that you have you time in your day-to-day life, and maybe it means that you are making sure that you schedule 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and a half an hour for you in this coming lunar month, just to get back to yourself. This could be meditation. This could mean some sort of spiritual practice, spiritual rituals, yoga. Maybe if you can swim, because Pisces and Neptune, it's very watery. Maybe you need to go swim, be in salt water, and let that salt water really purify you at this time. Scorpio. So this new moon is in your sign of creativity, self-expression. This is a lunar month for you to get back to you. A lot of things are changing in your life right now, Scorpio, and so do not lose sight of what makes you you. And it's really hard to really define what that is, because it's a feeling, it's an essence, it's something that lives deep inside. Of course, we connect to it when we get involved in projects or art or music or design, but we can be creative in other ways other than art and the like. So have fun with this new moon. Play, surround yourself with beauty. Venus is there. Venus is your relationship planet. Maybe this is a new relationship or a new romance, or maybe you need to just bring romance in general into your life. It's been a hard year. How do you sort of bring back the pleasure of life in your life or into yourself? Maybe with Neptune, there's a sense of forgiveness and compassion and letting go of the past, especially past relationships, and maybe even opening ourselves up to something that's really truly going to open our hearts in a way that we've never been open before. This new moon does talk about children, side note, in case this is actually relevant to your life. So this new moon might talk about fertility and pregnancy and sort of the things that come with that side of life. Again, if that is relevant to you. With this new moon pointing back towards Aquarius, Aquarius is your sign of home and family. This may bring up something about home and family, your roots, your foundation, your past, your family, parents, something that is already shifting on a bigger level because Saturn is there as well. So this new moon is like, well, who are you, Scorpio? And of course, who are you? Do you have to hide yourself or change yourself or shift yourself when you're around your family members? Does your past, or does the past things that happen to you negatively affect how you express who you are? How do you liberate yourself? Because Scorpio, you are in a time of larger sort of liberating yourself. You are what's called Uranus is opposing your sun for the next 5 years. So Scorpio, we really gotta let go and let loose, and maybe this Pisces new moon is sort of giving you that permission to really truly let your guard down and open up. Sagittarius. So this new moon is in your sign of communication, voice, speaking, learning, ideas, information. Pisces is a very intuitive sign. It's non-linear. So you have the mind sort of meeting up with the sign that sort of divides the boundaries between this world and the next world. So you might be Sagittarius in this very intuitive time. Wait, I'm sorry. It's not, I did some bad math, everybody. This new moon, scratch that, Sagittarius, take 2. So this new moon is in the bottom of your chart. It's about home and family. It's about roots and foundation. So this is a time when you might be having to make some moves in your home. Maybe you're planning a move. Maybe you are making changes in your home. Venus is there. Maybe you want to make your home more beautiful, more ethereal, maybe more nurturing. Because this new moon activates the solar eclipse of December 14th, this might be a big time for you, Sagittarius. There might be things going on in your family or your home environment. People might be moving out. People might be moving in. Something going on with parents or your family. So eclipses, they sort of make things happen. Maybe life is coming at you a little quickly, or you're having to navigate some deeper existential themes around home and family. Who is home? Who is family? Is it the people that you are actually physically connected to by birth? Or is it spiritual family? Because there's such a sense of spirituality with this new moon. And, maybe with Jupiter pointing over to your sign of communication, travel, there's travel with family, travel to family. Maybe there's a lot of connection and talking and interacting with family with this new moon, maybe even siblings as well, because part of your chart does talk about siblings. But ultimately, with the energy of where Jupiter is right now, it does talk about choices. How do you weigh your choices right now? It could be the choice of where to live, choice of who's home, where's home, where to plant yourself, and sort of these more serious questions that you are navigating as you go into the next couple of years, because Saturn is there. So this is a time for you to really take your voice seriously, to take your mind seriously, to communicate seriously, and maybe that extends to some of the interactions that you're having with your family. Do keep in mind that with Neptune, this open-hearted, Sun conjunct Neptune, Venus conjunct Neptune, maybe it's time to put the past to rest and to forgive the past. Capricorn. So this new moon talks about communication. This is what I started to say for Sagittarius. It actually was meant for you, Capricorn. So Neptune and Pisces, these are very nonlinear signs. These are signs that bring us to the end of the zodiac. They bridge between this world and the next world. So when you have a new moon in the place that talks about communication, meeting up with Neptune, it may mean that communication is not so clear right now. It could mean that communication actually is very intuitive. You are going on feeling right now, Capricorn. You're having to open up to something that Maybe on a deeper level, you've been opening up the last decade, but you're really having to work on that intuitive voice at the moment. Maybe with the fact that this is Venus conjunct Neptune with the new moon, Venus is your sign of career, your direction, sort of the responsibilities and duties you carry in the world. This is a time for you to make some serious choices about your career. And maybe to some earlier points for other signs, how do you make sure your spiritual values, your soul values, line up with your direction in your professional life? Maybe you're weighing your options with this new moon, and maybe you're having to voice some things that you've not voiced before, because Neptune, like this flood, wants to release something that you've been sort of not saying or holding on to. With the energy of this new moon pointing back towards money, Aquarius is your money sign. It's where Saturn and Jupiter are right now. You're really, again, getting into these deeper themes around value. Like, what do you really value? What's your time and your money and your energy truly worth? If you're putting all this time and it's creating suffering, is it truly worth it, for example? So this is a lunar month where you have to really sort of stick up for your values, make sure that your choices are aligning with your spiritual path, your deeper soul values, and maybe you are making some bigger decisions in your professional life. But Neptune sort of reminds us that there's our plans and there's the divine plans. And Capricorn in general is a sign that's very sort of plan oriented. It builds and constructs, but you're finding right now, Capricorn, that the things that you've built and constructed maybe aren't quite in alignment with something greater. And so some of the energy that's happening this year, Capricorn, is you have Saturn, your planet, in this long square to Uranus. So things are sort of like coming down because they need to be rearranged right now. So this new moon may also speak to some of that rearrangement that needs to happen in your life. Aquarius. So Aquarius, Pisces is your sign of money, income, resources, the money in the bank, the food in the kitchen. It's very much a nuts and bolts new moon for you. You have to sort of look at, what do you need right now? Is it a roof over your head? Well, I hope it's a roof over your head. Do you need more money? Do you need to reassess how you are earning a living? Again, Pisces is very much in Neptune and Venus in this new moon. It has to be aligned with your greater values. When Neptune is sort of wrapped up in your money story, and for you, Aquarius, it has been for the last 10 years, you can't make money for money's sake. It's sort of a bigger conversation. It's not like you can't make money, but the first thing can't be about the money. It's like you have to do what you love first, and then the money will come, or you have to make sure that it's the first thing that it ticks or checks in the box is this sort of deeper spiritual value, and then you can earn a living. It's not that you can't earn a living, but if it's money first right now, you're going to run into a lot of distortion at the moment, Aquarius, because that's how Neptune works. I'm sorry. But with Venus there, like, you're having to really think about these deeper questions of value. What do you value? What do you truly need? Do you need what society tells you need, or do you need what you need, which might be actually something very different? Venus is your planet of home and family, so this might speak to something about home and family and actually making purchases for the home. Some of the money that you are investing in your home environment. Maybe you're purchasing a home. So see how your money story is having to shift right now and align with something greater. Now, Jupiter, the ruler of this new moon, is in Aquarius. You are in Aquarius. So this new moon is reminding you that you are in a time of powerful new beginnings, Aquarius. You have Saturn in Aquarius. You have Saturn square Uranus all year long. Your life is shifting in big ways, and you cannot get in the way of yourself right now, Aquarius. You have to sort of go with the flow. So maybe this new moon is talking about divine surrender. And maybe that's not something you've done before, Aquarius, but it's sort of like you have to sort of go with things right now. There's just way too many things happening in your astrology that says that you can't resist things anymore. So maybe this new moon is sort of giving you this new vision, this new appreciation, this new value that's sort of in alignment with this new phase in your life. Last but not least, Pisces. So Pisces, this new moon is in your sign. When you have a new moon in your sign, it's a time of new beginnings. Your life is sort of getting this fresh start, a sense of renewal. Maybe you're getting some, like spotlight is on you in some way, or something important is happening in your life right now. If your birthday is on the 13th, plus or minus a couple of days, it's a powerful new year for you. One of surrender, one of higher callings, one of opening up your intuition and really discovering something that is outside of yourself. But of course, don't lose yourself, because with Neptune energy, it's very easy to lose yourself. If you are Pisces and you're on the earlier side of Pisces, February and into the beginning of March, you've already been through this. You already know what it's like when Neptune comes and says that, the life that you sort of neatly ordered for yourself is just going to wash away a little bit. So maybe right now there's this reminder that you are in a very spiritual time, Pisces, even more spiritual than usual, but don't get caught in the illusions. Don't get caught in, because sort of Neptune pulls back the curtain or pulls back the veil. But sometimes, if we're not really in the right frame of mind, we can sort of get seduced or sort of get pulled by something in the wrong way. That said, this new moon is a good time for, renewal, sort of creating new initiatives. It's your birthday season. What's the new path that you want to walk on this year? And with both Jupiter and Saturn in your 12th sign, your last sign, maybe you're realizing that, again, like Capricorn, there's your plans, but then there's the plans of something greater. So how do you deal with that dissonance or that friction between what you want and maybe what something else, something higher wants? And maybe you're doing a lot of soul searching this birthday season. You're trying to put together a sense of meaning to things. So this is a big time for you, Pisces, because of course your birthday season, but this is a very powerful new moon. This is a time for you to really find your value, your creativity, your intuition, your spirituality, even your beauty. There's a very ethereal quality to Venus conjunct Neptune. It's very magnetic quality. So that is your look at the astrology of this week, March 8th through 14th, 2021. And that's a look at what this Pisces new moon is going to mean for you. Thank you for sticking with me through this look at all 12 signs. Again, my name is Katie Sweetman. I am an astrologer and psychic medium here in Brooklyn, New York, and we've been gathering every week to look at the astrology. So maybe you're watching on the replay. I'm on IGTV, on Instagram, I'm on YouTube. You can listen on Spotify if you want the podcast. So thanks for joining me. You can follow me at empoweringastrology.com. Again, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Sign up for my newsletter. All of this is in the show notes. I will see you all again next week. Thank you and take care. Bye.